Hello my friends, recently I have been pretty interested in checking out some Chinese beauty, so today we'll be checking out this eyeshadow palette that I have on my eyes right now, and it's from a brand called NARIMI or NARIMI, and this is their 古木八色眼影盘, which is actually translated to their Deadwood 8-pan eyeshadow palette. Very pretty, very grungy, and I only paid $16 for this eyeshadow palette including shipping. So I did buy this off Taobao, and fortunately enough, because I live in Singapore, it's rather easy to actually order stuff from Taobao and directly get it shipped here. If you live somewhere where Taobao is not really that accessible, I would recommend getting a third-party shipper to help you ship it over to you. Currently from this brand NARIMI, there are two other palette options you guys can check out as well. They are also same layout, same price point, which is crazy to be honest, because so far my experience with this palette over here has been great. Let's talk about the packaging, and as you guys have seen, the exterior and internal of the palette is very cohesive with the whole Deadwood purple grunge aesthetic, which I think it is rather well done. It is very slim and quite sturdy. It's kind of like that hard wood plastic kind of feeling. It does have a magnetized closure, which is quite secure, and also if you were to accidentally put your fingers in between, it's not gonna like hurt or whatsoever. The name of this palette is actually printed on a transparent sticker over here, and it's quite hard to read, and also it's in Chinese as well, so if you're not able to read Chinese or Mandarin, it will be difficult to like identify. The expiry date, however, it is directly printed on the packaging on the back of the palette over here, so this expires in 2025. Now moving on to the colors and formula itself of this eyeshadow palette. In total you get 8 eyeshadows, 5 pure mattes. There are no mattes with shimmers or mattes with glitters, and none of that. These are pure mattes, and then you get 3 wet shimmery duochrome shadows as well. The color scheme on this eyeshadow palette leans very dark, heavy, grungy, so all 3 looks that I came out with, it pulls a little bit cool tone. It has this grayish undertone for almost all of the shades in this palette, so they end up really looking very smoky, and it's like obvious I am wearing eyeshadow. In the beauty Asia market at the moment, I feel like a lot of beauty brands are producing very daily wear, neutral, light eye makeup palettes. Maybe you're going to work or whatsoever, but maybe if you're looking for something different, you want something that's a bit more wet, more punchier, then yes, this eyeshadow palette delivers on that. In terms of formula across the board, be it for mattes or shimmers, I find that the shadows in this palette are quite loosely pressed. So for the matte shadows, whenever I go in with my brush, I see a significant amount of kick up already, so when I knock off the excess, a lot does come off. So I highly recommend for this palette, either you do your eye makeup first and use an eyeshadow primer. Make sure it's a sticky tacky base and the powder will actually stick and adhere really well to your eyelids. I feel that if you were to not use an eyeshadow primer, this will not look really good, because for the matte shadow, when I do dry swatches of it, it looks patchy. It looks really patchy. So for this, I highly recommend, please do use an eyeshadow primer. It is quite dry, but it's not crumbly dry either, and when I do swatch it on my skin, it does feel smooth even, so it's quite interesting for this particular formula. But don't expect like, oh, buttery smooth mattes. No, it's not that. It's quite dry. From my experience, it is quite expected when it comes to very pigmented shadows. They tendency to have like a looser, drier formula, but I can forgo it in a sense because the coverage, everything, the pigmentation is really good. Firefly and Deadwood apply way much more smoothly as compared to Wings, because if you guys know me, I love to use my fingers to apply my shimmers just to get the most impact and shine and one less brush to wash. So I feel like when I pick up Wings on my finger, I could feel it flaking around the perimeters of the swatch itself. In terms of like particle textures, that kind kind of stuff, right? All three of them are legit the same, so you aren't really getting different textures to explore and play with, but it's really which shade of shimmer or glitter do you want on your eyelid. You can combine two, maybe half your eyelid is one shade, the other half is another shade. You could do that as well. The formula on the duochrome shimmer shadows are quite softly pressed. It's very easy to pick up on your finger, but that's to say also that it's quite fragile. So what had happened was that I ordered this together with my friend Anna. You guys have seen her before on my Malaysia vlog. She had ordered one for herself. I said, you know what, add one for me too. So she had it delivered to her house, and when she opened and checked both of our palettes, one of the shades, I believe it's Deadwood, actually had shattered for one of the eyeshadow palettes. So I was like, oh no, kind of thing. I was wondering, can we get a refund or something? And she's like, it's okay. I believe she said it was very easy to press it back into the pan, which is quite true, and very thankful and grateful as well that she gave me the one that was nothing was wrong. So when she gave it to me, she said, I can carry this, wrapped it around in my bag, everything, making sure everything was fine, please double check. So when I opened and checked it, I could see like a little bit of the like eyeshadow like lifting up, so I had to like smoosh it back into the pan, and everything now is fine. Also, I believe for my second look, because I applied the shimmer shades on a non-sticky tacky base, there was quite a bit of fallout actually. I'm not sure if it's going to show on camera, but there are a little bit of glitter fallout happening right over here right now on my cheeks. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's happening already, so that's something that I'll be really cautious about. Would I recommend this palette as a standalone palette? Yes and no. It really depends on your personal preference. As you guys know, makeup is a very personal thing. You may like something I may not like, vice versa. So I think it really depends on your makeup taste. Do you like something more daily, neutral, everyday wear? Then I think this would be something quite intimidating. However, you can look at it a different way that is like, oh, there's something interesting, something different. I would use this personally as a supplementary palette. I would love to use like all these beautiful, delicious duochrome shades together with whatever eyeshadow palettes I have in my current collection. I think this palette would be great for someone who wants to dip their feet into smoky colors. You want to try something that's heavier, you have a lot of daily neutral palettes, you want to try something different. I highly recommend this. Even after playing around with the shadows, you still have one brown to kind of save you a little bit, but the duochromes are the game changers in this palette, and I think it will definitely add something very, very unique to your eyeshadow collection. We're gonna be moving on to the 3 looks I had done with this eyeshadow palette. This palette, the eye looks I had done are really pretty. Even today's one, I think they look really nice, something different, and they are all very grungy, smoky, but somewhat a bit of color to it as well. And this palette was a joy playing with. It really did push me out of my comfort zone, and I enjoyed all 3 looks.
For the first eye look, I used the shade Spring Mud, a grey tone medium purple, as a transition shade. You can see that it lays down the most pigment on where I first placed my brush. Later, I changed my mind and decided that I want this shade Spring Mud all over my lids instead. So as you can see, I'm applying it everywhere right now. Next, I added in the shade Pot, which is like a grey tone red, very interesting color. But when I applied it on my eyes, on my outer V to add some definition, right, it kind of put more purple than red, surprisingly. As you can see, it's getting to a very dramatic look. So then afterwards, I took the shade Firefly, which is your green-red flip, and placed it on the high points of my eyelids. As I knew I was going to add false eyelashes later on, I knew I could bring the eyeshadow itself higher, so I could be a little bit more daring. I felt like adding the shade Firefly did help in bringing the redness in Pot out a little bit better, and it's just a nice complementary green-red contrast. And this is the first look. Now moving on to the second eye look, I wanted the main focus to be on the inner corner itself, so we start off with Villas, the one and only most neutral light medium brown, and I applied it as a transition shade. Next, I went into Mauve, a very interesting color like a grungy, dirty yellow green as an inner corner highlight or pop of color. But I very soon realized I did not like how this was looking like because I felt that my eyes looked too close to one another. So I decided to cover it up with one of the shimmer shades, Deadwood. I took it on my finger and slowly started packing it on my inner corners, and eventually I dragged it up along the bones of my eye socket, as I knew I was gonna add false eyelashes again because these looks are getting very, very dramatic. And this is the second look. So for this video's eye look, I wanted to try doing a butterfly inspired eye look. So I took the shade Pot again and sketched out the edges of the wings using a thin slope brush. I really wanted to try and make the red pop a little bit more in this palette, so that's why I went in again. I just realized I didn't use skirt. Oops. Anyway, once I was happy with the shape of the wings itself, I took the shade Pot again on a denser brush and packed it on and blended it inwards, roughly between like 1/3 of my eye. And I went back into Spring Mud on a packer brush and applied it on the remaining 2/3 of my eyes. On the same packer brush, I took some MAC Fix Plus and wet my brush, and then went into the shade Wings. Like I said, it was kind of flaky for this formula, so I wanted to make sure there was a better way of applying this shadow. Application was much easier and smoother. I love the darkened purple base on this. After doing the rest of my makeup, I took the thin slope brush in the same shade Pot, the red color, and drew out some very, very long eyelashes, kind of like butterfly tails inspired a little bit. And this is the third eye look.
Are you guys interested in Chinese beauty or Chinese makeup? Let me know. Drop it down in the comments below. I love to hear from you guys. I have dabbled in Chinese beauty in the past, and I did do a video comparing the Laura Mercier OG powder versus the Perfect Diary one. So you guys can check out this video over here. And I'll see you guys over there.